Hi everybody, welcome back to Coffee Culture Around the World with Sagebrush Coffee. Last lesson, we talked about African coffee culture and began by diving into the history of coffee in Ethiopia. Today we'll be looking at coffee culture in Asia and begin by talking about coffee culture in the other country that claims to be the birthplace of coffee, Yemen. Whether or not coffee actually originated here, it was one of the first countries to drink it. The coffee beverage had a huge impact on the culture of Yemen when it supposedly made its introduction in or before the 15th century. After a Sufi monk first discovered the drink, the rest of the Sufi monk population used the beverage to help them stay awake and alert during prayer, vigils, and meditation. Sometimes these procedures would last all night long, so the monks saw it as a divine gift to help them with their devotional practices. The port of Mocha, Yemen, played a significant role in the early transportation and cultivation of coffee. Is it a coincidence that one of the most popular drinks is called a cafe mocha? Perhaps. There's no direct evidence correlating the name of this port and the chocolatey drink that we see today, but some coffee professionals believe that the name could be a nod to coffee origins. During the peak of coffee transportation out of Mocha in the 15th century, it is very possible that Yemen took the responsibility of bringing coffee to the Ottoman Empire. Historically speaking, Yemen and the Ottoman Empire faced a lot of conflict, and northern Yemen was even part of the empire for a period of time. Because of this, it's likely that coffee was traded or smuggled between the two lands, leading to the creation of the coffee house that we talked about in the first lesson. Today, the amount of coffee produced and exported from Yemen has decreased significantly. This is largely due to the humanitarian crisis happening within the country. Yemen is struggling to provide food and clean water to its people and has been in the midst of a civil war since 2014. Unfortunately, a narcotic plant called khat has replaced coffee because farmers are able to make a lot more money off of it, and they are resorting to any means necessary to provide during these troubling times. Another early contender in the Asian coffee world is Indonesia. Coffee was brought to Indonesia's second largest island, Java, by the Dutch in the 1690s. During this time, the Dutch ruled over Indonesia, and they cultivated coffee in Java because of its ideal growing conditions. Then they spread it throughout other islands such as Sumatra, Bali, and Sulawesi after seeing its success. Similar to Tanzania and Kenya, when Indonesia was producing coffee under Dutch rule, it was benefiting the Netherlands and not Indonesia itself. The Dutch continued to rule over Indonesia until 1941, when Japan took over the territory before it declared its independence in 1945. Today, coffee production and consumption is still very popular in Indonesia. They have picked up the practice of open pan roasting by using a wok and wood fire. Some regions add either coconut, corn, rice, or mung beans for flavor. Additionally, different Indonesian islands have created unique coffee recipes over the year. In Java, kopi katak is a thick coffee and sugar blend that is boiled over water. In Sumatra, kopi telur is a hot coffee poured over a whipped egg yolk and topped with lime and vanilla. Other islands enjoy kopi apricot, which is an iced coffee blended with sweetened condensed milk and avocado and served like a smoothie. Another Asian country that has gotten creative with its coffee recipes is Vietnam. Coffee was introduced to Vietnam by the French in the 1850s, but didn't really gain popularity until the next century. In the late 1900s, the Vietnamese government found an opportunity to strengthen its economy after war by supporting coffee production. The country had a rocky start because of its still healing economy, but they have grown quite quickly as they are now the second largest coffee producing country in the world. Robusta beans are commonly grown in Vietnam. They are lower in cost than Arabica beans and have a higher caffeine level and lower sugar level. Because of this combination, they're not necessarily known for high quality flavor profiles. To cover the rather bitter taste of Robusta beans and also adapt to a milk shortage the country was experiencing after war, the Vietnamese created a drink that mixes coffee with egg whites and sweetened condensed milk. The drink was first served hot, but then gained popularity iced because of the country's hot and humid climate. Today, the drink is gaining popularity in the United States and Europe and is referred to as a Vietnamese iced coffee. I want to end this lesson by talking about coffee culture in Japan. Coffee made its way to Japan in the 1700s and was brought by Dutch merchants shortly after they traveled to Indonesia. Coffee had a slow start in Japan and didn't really gain popularity until the Taisho period in the early 1900s, which was considered to be Japan's jazz era. Although coffee wasn't really gaining popularity within Japanese land before the 1900s, it impacted a significant amount of the country's people. Japan suffered from overpopulation in the late 1800s, and many of the country's people moved to Brazil to work on coffee farms as a result. It is estimated that over 240 100,000 Japanese natives made this move to work in the developing Brazilian coffee industry. Although working conditions were harsh for the immigrants over the next 100 years or so, many of the Japanese laborers bought land in Brazil and continued to farm there. This set Japan and Brazil up for a great trading relationship, and since then, Japan has continued to buy coffee beans from Brazil in significant quantities. Japan's first coffee house opened in Tokyo in 1888 and was referred to as a kisaten. Kisaten's business increased as Japan entered the Taisho period and eventually followed the idea of a French cafe in the sense that they served breakfast, snacks, alcoholic beverages, and coffee. There is a Japanese word called kodawari, which roughly translates to striving for perfection. This idea was applied to the coffee industry, and Japan explored different ways to brew coffee. Pour-overs, siphons, and cold brew methods all gained popularity in Japan because of the idea of kodawari. Today, Japan is a leader in making quality coffee equipment. Two of their most recognizable brands include Hario and Kalita. After coffee was introduced to game-changing countries like Indonesia, Vietnam, and Japan, coffee began to make its way around the rest of Asia in the remainder of the 1900s. Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and Brunei have all adopted the idea of a relaxed, open-air coffee shop called a kopitiam. So, now that we've learned about coffee culture in Europe, Africa, and Asia, where are we off to next? Find out in the next lesson of coffee culture around the world, and be sure to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Until then, I'm Kourtney, and I'll see you next time.